A definition of a startup is actually hypergrowth. Hypergrowth after you get the product market fit, right? And a product market fit means you have the right product and you know the market to which you're selling and the market is actually buying it. Now, whether it's a digital product, a physical product, a service, the product market fit as a concept is not any different. Hypergrowth means literally growing 4-5x every year, right, on a scale of something. And that's why you see some of the biggest success stories on startups, be it a Flipkart, Myntra, e-commerce, or New Sigma, and different aspects, right? They've all grown, shown hypergrowth. And that's sort of, for me, the definition of a startup, which is where it's very different from a lifestyle business, which grows probably at 20-30% year on year, right? And whatever the key metrics are, let's say revenues or audience. Given that is the context for a startup, it is impossible to grow at these kind of rates without funds, right? Because to recruit smart minds, you need funds. To do the right experiments, you need funds. To market, you need funds. And unless you get to a particular scale quickly, competition is always going to come in and go for the kill. Again, if you want to be of any substance. So given these two contexts, literally if I were to rewind 2.5 years back, that's sort of the time when we were trying to establish the product market fit. We had just Ashish and me and we didn't know what we were going to do. Literally had a few pieces of furniture, and that's when we said this business requires funding because it requires, at that point in time, some inventory, some marketing expense, a good set of people to go after it. The good part about that is that Ashish had already, and he leads a lot of the funding conversations, right? My co-founder Ashish. So he had a big network of people whom he had interacted with in his past jobs when he didn't need the funding, which essentially means that the network was already there. And I would say that's one big learning, that you should actually establish your network when you don't need the money and not when you need the money, because it becomes much trickier then. So you have that network of, and you just meet them in these different forums, these conferences. They are there everywhere, okay? So you can easily meet them. They are very interested in meeting smart entrepreneurs. They have teams that just look at entrepreneurs. So you should just get to meet them, and there are only 15 to 20 big funds in India, right? So once you do that, then when you actually need the money, the process can go as low as 2 to 3 months. It can go as high as 12 months, which essentially means either your bank balance takes care of 12 months, or at any point in time when you raise a subsequent round of funding, you should start the funding process 12 months ahead of when you actually need the funds, because it sometimes takes 3 to 6 months just to close who the investor is, and it takes 3 to 6 months for the money to come back into your account, because there's a lot of legalities and stuff. The other big aspect about finding an investor, it is a misconception that investors come and sort of own what you do. Absolutely, is exactly the polar opposite. Investors don't want to do it because they know that if they don't give the freedom to the entrepreneurs are just going to run away from it, right? And the smart investors know this. They're going to give you complete freedom. They just want to make sure that you avoid the pitfalls that they have seen. Obviously, they're a bit biased because you never know what is in a new space. Whenever you can, you should be able to choose the investor who you see as a big fit culturally with what you want to do. And the investor conversations always keep happening. Ashish, 30 to 50% of the time, whenever, it depends on when we are raising funds or not, always goes in just connecting with investors and sort of being connected with them, because that conversation might materialize 18 months down the line, right? Even in the last round, we raised around $20 million in the third round of funding just 1.5 months back. And that conversation, the first time it happened was 12 months back when, SteadView didn't know who we were and we didn't know who SteadView was. So that conversation materialized into something much later. So funding, I would say, is a fundamental part. It doesn't matter whether you're giving 40% or 30% equity, because you can have 100% of equity in a nothing company, or you have 5% of equity in a $1 billion company. In a $1 billion company, it's not just about the money value being higher. You have done something far greater significance. You've grown and you've shown that you have the confidence to actually run a company. I think in the whole startup experience, that's more important than any material value of money that you're making from all of this. So I would say you should always raise funds. The real tangibles for any business is for it to achieve its vision. For us, the vision is to make millions of Indian homes beautiful, and in the process of making those beautiful, make the homeowner extremely happy, right? And if we can do that, then we have sort of said what we have said. It might take 10 years, 5 years, 20 years, we don't know, right? what the funding has allowed us is to single-mindedly focus on making that vision happen than anything else. Of course, there are phases where one of our time, which is pretty much Ashish, because he sort of drives the funding aspect, goes into actually doing the legalities of the process and stuff, and it's non-trivial time. But outside of that, it helps the rest of the team to really go after stuff in a big way, in a highly scalable way, in a much more hyper growth way than we could have ever imagined. I mean, in 2 years, for us to have built the brand to where it is today, and I would still rate us as 1 or 2 on 10 on where we need to get into the next 5-10 years. It's only possible because we had that kind of backing and a lot of investor interest and guidance to actually make this happen. That's the other thing that happens, right? As you grow, there are investors have seen these kind of different scales and different aspects of a company. So they bring in an element of focus which you sort of tend to lose as an entrepreneur, because you want to go out for the kill and you want to do this and that, and they come back and say, no, hold on, just go do this really well. And then it says, okay, it makes a lot of sense. So I would say it's a good partnership that way. It's not about just getting the money from an investor. It's a very good partnership, and that is sort of just, it's been always positive. I don't see any flip side to raising money, honestly.